What happens when a CEO trades his corner office for a name tag and discovers something he never thought he'd see at his own cafe? Zeke Callahan had built the cafe chain from scratch, starting with a dusty old trailer in a college town and growing it into 18 cozy locations across 3 states. The company had always stood for warmth, community, and doing right by customers. But lately, something felt off. Sales were steady, but customer complaints had crept in. Missed orders, cold coffee, rude service. Zeke had heard it all, but nothing ever came through clearly. His district manager for the downtown branch, Kyle, always had a polished answer. It was just a one-off, or we retrained the team. Still, the complaints kept coming, so Zeke decided to find out for himself. He picked the downtown location, one of the first cafes he'd opened, now run by people who had never met him. The staff there didn't know him by face. It was a chain now. Corporate handled hiring, and turnover had changed his original team. He figured if he put on a disguised gray beard, glasses, a slight southern drawl, and the name Don, he could slip in as a trainee without raising questions. He applied through a temp agency they used for seasonal hires, and 2 weeks later, Don walked in wearing a maroon apron and holding a barista handbook. "Hey, new guy," the shift lead, a wiry guy named Trent, said without looking up from his phone. "You're late." "I was told to come in at 8?" Trent finally looked at him. 8 sharp. Whatever, just put your stuff in the back and get up front. We're short today." Zeke did as he was told, quietly slipping into the rhythm of the cafe. He brewed pots of coffee, wiped tables, and tried to keep his head down. The staff seemed exhausted. One barista, a young woman named Gina, barely looked up as she steamed milk and called drinks. She moved fast, polite to the customers, but her eyes looked tired. "Sorry about the wait," she said to a man tapping his watch. "I'm the only one on bar right now." Zeke caught bits and pieces of the staff talking. Apparently 2 workers had quit the same week. One wasn't replaced yet, and the other shift was being covered by Trent, who mostly stood at the register, chatting with friends who weren't even ordering anything. By mid-morning, Zeke found himself behind the register with Trent, who finally decided Don was worth his attention. "Look, all you gotta do is hit this button for coffee, this one for tea. Don't overthink it. If someone's slow counting change, just move on. We got a line to push." Zeke nodded, pretending to struggle with the buttons. Trent was impatient, rolling his eyes every time Zeke asked a question. Then it happened. An older woman stepped up to the counter, her hands trembling slightly as she opened a worn leather wallet. "I'll have a medium drip, please," she said softly. Her name was Dolores. She counted out the change carefully, $4 in quarters and dimes, and slid it across. Trent stepped in. "That's short," he said flatly. "No, I believe it's $4, she replied. "It's $3.95, right?" Trent scooped up the change. Prices went up. $4.20 now. Zeke's stomach dropped. That wasn't true. Medium drip was still $3.95. Dolores frowned. You thought wrong," Trent snapped. "You want it or not?" She hesitated, then nodded. Trent took the coins and didn't give any change, just turned and barked, "Medium drip." Zeke froze. He saw it clear Trent had lied, for 5 cents. And not just lied, he humiliated her. Zeke made the coffee himself and handed it to her gently. "Here you go, ma'am." "Thank you," she said softly, eyes downcast as she walked to a corner table. Zeke turned to Trent. "Hey, I thought drip was $3.95. Trent shrugged. "We get folks like her all the time. If they don't like it, they can go somewhere else." Zeke stared at him. That didn't feel right. "You want to make it here or not, old man?" Trent said. "You're not here to feel stuff. You're here to ring people up." Zeke didn't say a word. He just stepped back and let the next customer through. But his jaw was tight. That night, Zeke sat in his car 2 blocks away, hands on the wheel, just staring. He'd seen a stranger run his cafe like it was a vending machine. He'd watched a loyal customer get shortchanged and dismissed like she was nothing. And the worst part, nobody even blinked. He thought about walking away. Maybe the company had outgrown him. Maybe the culture had shifted too far. But then he thought of Gina, running around trying to clean tables and make drinks while Trent leaned on the counter. She deserved better. They all did. He wasn't done. Not yet. Tomorrow, Dawn would be back, and he was going to keep watching. Zeke arrived 20 minutes early the next morning, before the lights had even flickered on. The front of the cafe was dark, the street still quiet. He sat on the curb with a takeout coffee from another shop down the block. He didn't want to drink anything made in his own store, not after what he'd seen the day before. At exactly 6:42, Gina showed up, backpack slung over one shoulder and hoodie zipped up to her neck. She looked surprised to see him already there. "You're early," she said, unlocking the door. "Figured I'd get a head start. Still a bit slow with the register," Zeke replied. "I wouldn't worry. Trent barely touches it when it's slow. You'll have time." She flipped the lights inside. The cafe slowly came to life. Warm bulbs, humming coolers, the faint rattle of a pastry case being stocked. It should have felt comforting. It didn't. Gina pulled her apron from the hook and started setting up the bar station without any direction. She moved with muscle memory, checking syrup levels, wiping down the steam wand, stacking lids. Zeke watched for a moment before walking into the back to drop off his bag. The back room smelled faintly of mildew. A mop bucket sat full in the corner. The whiteboard above the desk still listed a deep clean rotation from 2 weeks ago. No check marks, no initials. As he pinned on his name badge, the door banged open behind him. "You know you're not supposed to be back here alone, right?" Trent's voice broke the silence. Zeke turned. "Just dropping my bag." Trent narrowed his eyes. "We've had people steal tips and product from the back. Don't make that a habit." Zeke nodded. "Understood." Trent didn't say anything else, just walked to the desk, snapped a photo of the schedule, and left without grabbing an apron. By 7:15, customers started trickling in. Gina was already handling both espresso and register. Zeke stepped in to cover bar while she ran orders. Trent sat on a stool by the window, scrolling through his phone. Again. A man in a suit ordered a cappuccino and asked for almond milk. Zeke made it, placed it on the bar, and called it out. The man frowned. "This is whole milk." Zeke paused. "You sure?" "I'm lactose intolerant. I think I'd know." Gina stepped over immediately. "I'll remake it, sir. I'm sorry." "No, not you. I watched him make it," the man said, pointing toward Zeke. Zeke kept his tone even. "I may have pulled the wrong jug. I'll fix it right now." He remade the drink, handed it over, and the customer left without another word. When Zeke turned, Trent was finally up from his stool, arms crossed. "You screw up every drink, or just the ones that matter?" "I admitted it and fixed it." "Yeah, well, we're not running a charity here." "You've got 2 days on the floor. Don't start giving stuff away." Zeke tilted his head. "You'd rather I argue with a customer over 70 cents worth of almond milk?" Trent leaned in. "I'd rather you stop thinking you're smarter than me." He walked away before Zeke could reply. By mid-morning, the cafe was full. Orders stacked up on the bar. Zeke and Gina worked shoulder to shoulder, not needing to speak. She was quick with milk. He pulled shots. They found a rhythm. At one point, Zeke leaned over. "Do you always do both stations?" "Only when Trent's here." "Why?" She didn't answer immediately. "He says it's faster if one person does both, less mess. But it's more work." She gave a small shrug. "It's not worth arguing." Zeke nodded slowly. He wasn't sure what made him angrier, Trent's laziness, or the way Gina had clearly learned to just accept it. Around 10, a young man came in wearing a delivery app shirt, phone in hand. "Mobile for Kara, 2 lattes, 1 cold brew." Zeke checked the tablet. "No such order." "Sorry, there's nothing under that name yet." The man showed him the phone. "It says, confirmed here." Gina leaned over. "They've been glitching all week. Sometimes they go through on the app and not to us." "Do you want me to make them anyway?" Zeke asked. Trent finally looked up from the back table. "Don't touch that order." The delivery guy raised an eyebrow. "She already paid." Trent stood and walked over. "If it's not on our system, we don't make it. Tell her to call support." "She's a regular. She orders from here every day," the man said. "Then she should know how to use the app," Trent snapped. The man sighed and walked out. Zeke watched him go, then turned to Gina. "How often does that happen?" "Often enough," she said. "We end up refunding through corporate. But it takes days." Zeke clenched his jaw. That was a paying customer, a regular. ignored over something that could have been solved in 3 minutes. Later, while cleaning the floor near the pastry case, Zeke overheard Trent talking to 2 customers at a table. His voice was low but clear. "Corporate's a joke. They've never worked a real day in their lives. If I ran this place, we'd cut half the menu and double profits by now." One of the customers laughed. "You should take over." "Maybe I will. They wouldn't notice anyway." Zeke didn't say a word, just kept sweeping. At noon, a woman in scrubs came in. She looked exhausted. She ordered a sandwich and an iced tea. "Sorry," Zeke said, checking the fridge. "Looks like we're out of the turkey wrap. I can offer the chicken pesto," Trent cut in. "That's not true. We've got one in the back." Zeke hesitated. He'd just checked. The tray was empty. "I saw it this morning," Trent insisted, staring him down. Zeke walked to the back. The fridge was empty, just like he thought. But there, in the drawer labeled Employee Meals, was one turkey wrap, marked with a sticky note, G break. He walked back, sandwich in hand. This was in the employee drawer. Someone set it aside. Trent shrugged. "They'll live." Zeke looked at him. "It's labeled. She's not even on break yet. Make the sale." Zeke turned to Gina. "Is this yours?" She looked up from the bar. "Yeah. I was going to eat during the lull." Zeke looked between them, then back at the customer. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said. "We're all out of that sandwich. Would you like something else on the house?" The woman smiled faintly. "Chicken pesto's fine." As Zeke made the substitution, he felt Trent's eyes burning into his back. When the rush finally died down, Zeke stepped outside for his 10-minute break. Gina followed him out. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "I wasn't going to take your lunch. He's going to make today miserable for you. I've had worse." She leaned against the wall, sipping a water bottle. "You don't talk like the other new hires." Zeke smiled faintly. "How do they talk?" "Mostly about getting out. Nobody stays long. Trent runs them out or they just stop showing up." "How long have you been here?" 8 months. I was supposed to be part-time. Then 2 people quit, and here I am." Zeke nodded. "Why haven't you left?" She looked down at her shoes. "I like the people, not him. Just the regulars, the rhythm. I don't know." Inside, Trent was pacing the cafe, muttering into his phone, probably with Kyle. Zeke watched through the window. Trent pointed toward the register, then toward the bar. His face was red. Zeke turned back to Gina. "If you could change one thing about this place, what would it be?" She didn't hesitate. "Accountability." Zeke nodded once. "I'll see what I can do." Saturday opened with a line out the door by 7:15. The city's weekend crowd moved fast. Students, dog walkers, parents with strollers, all funneling through the cafe. Zeke was already behind the counter with Gina, sleeves rolled up, apron dusted with flour from the morning prep. The third barista scheduled hadn't shown. Again. Gina looked up from the espresso machine, her voice low. "That's the 3rd Saturday in a row. Someone's flaked." Zeke nodded once. "They always call in?" "No, just don't show." Trent wasn't in yet. Scheduled for 7, he walked in at 7:36, carrying a half-eaten breakfast burrito and a cup from a competing coffee shop. He glanced at the crowd, then at the register. "I'm not jumping in until I finish eating," he said, already heading to the back. Zeke didn't reply, just handed off another cappuccino and called out the next name. By 9, the floor was sticky. Pastry trays half empty, and the drink queue backed up into double digits. A customer spilled their cold brew near the cream station. Zeke grabbed the mop. Gina refilled napkins with one hand while steaming milk with the other. At 9:23, a customer with a guide dog stepped up to the register. Middle-aged, sunglasses tucked into his shirt collar, hand resting lightly on the animal's harness. "Large dark roast, please. Room for milk." Zeke tapped the screen, rang him up, and reached for the cup. Before he could pour, Trent walked back up front, chewing the last bite of his burrito, brushing crumbs off his shirt. "Hey," he said to the man, "you can't have dogs in here." The man turned slightly, confused. "He's a service animal." "Still, health code." Zeke froze mid-pour. Gina looked up from the bar, eyes narrowing. The customer, calm but direct, said, "He's federally protected. I'm legally allowed to bring him in." Trent scoffed. "I don't make the laws, man. I just enforce them." That's exactly the problem, the man replied, voice edged now. You don't know the law. Zeke set the cup down and stepped between them. I've got it. Sir, your coffee's on the house today. I'm sorry for the trouble. The man gave a curt nod. I'll be reporting this. You should, Zeke said, turning to Trent. Go take your break. I just got here. Then go clean the back room, now. Trent looked like he might say something, but the weight in Zeke's voice made him turn. He walked off without another word. Gina handed off 2 drinks, then came to Zeke's side. What was that? A lawsuit waiting to happen. By 10, the line finally thinned. The cafe smelled like burnt toast and cinnamon. Zeke stepped outside for air, hands on his hips. A man in a suit leaned against the brick wall beside the cafe entrance. He had a tablet in hand and a clipboard under his arm. His badge read, Health and Safety Compliance. You the manager? The man asked. Just a barista, Zeke replied. The man flipped a page on his clipboard. We've had 2 calls this week, one about a fire exit being blocked, another about a service dog being turned away, both from this location. Zeke kept his tone neutral. I'd check the back hallway. Might be supplies stacked there. The inspector nodded once. We'll be doing a walkthrough in 15. Zeke walked back in. Gina was restocking cups. He pulled her aside. Do we have anything blocking the back exit? She hesitated. There's been boxes of cleaning solution there since Tuesday. Nobody's moved them. Where's the key to the supply closet? Trent keeps it. Zeke found Trent in the office, leaned back in a metal chair, scrolling through his phone. We've got a health inspection in 10 minutes. Where's the key to the closet? Trent didn't look up. I think Kyle has it. You said you had it last week. Then it's probably still in my car. Zeke stared at him. So go get it. Trent finally stood, muttering as he headed out. Zeke turned to Gina. Grab boxes from the back hallway. We'll move them into the mop closet. They worked fast. By the time the inspector walked in, the hallway was clear, the mop bucket emptied, and the back door propped open. The inspection lasted 20 minutes. The man took photos, asked quiet questions. Before leaving, he paused at the register. Tell your manager they're under preliminary review. Multiple complaints in the same week triggers that. Zeke nodded. Understood. As soon as the inspector left, Zeke called a break. Gina sat on a milk crate near the back, sipping water. Zeke leaned against the wall beside her. What would happen if we reported Trent directly to corporate? He asked. Her voice was quiet. I tried once. They forwarded it to Kyle. Nothing changed. Zeke nodded once. At noon, Kyle walked in. He wore a pressed polo with the company logo and a lanyard swinging from his neck. He clapped his hands once. All right, team, heard we had a rough morning. Let's tighten things up. Trent greeted him like an old friend. Just another weekend rush, man. You know how it gets. Kyle laughed. Always does. Zeke stepped up. We had a customer discriminated against this morning. A health inspector showed up, and our fire exit was blocked for days. Kyle blinked. Whoa, okay, let's not dramatize things. I'm not dramatizing. I'm stating facts, Trent interjected. Don's been stirring stuff up since day one. He's new, doesn't get how we do things. Zeke looked at Kyle. How you do things is failing, and I'm done pretending I don't know why. Kyle's smile faded. Who are you exactly? Zeke pulled the name badge from his apron. My name's not Don. It's Ezekiel Callahan. I founded this company 16 years ago. And what I saw this week is not what I built. Gina dropped the cup she was holding. It bounced once and rolled under the prep table. Trent's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Kyle's face went pale. Wait, what? Zeke stepped forward, voice even. You both knew this store was struggling. I've read your reports. I've seen the numbers. But you didn't fix it. You buried it. You let good employees carry the burden while you sat back and watched. And today, a customer was publicly humiliated for having a service dog. Kyle raised a hand. Let's talk privately. No, we're talking right here. Trent finally spoke. This is insane. I've been holding this place together. You have no idea what it's like on the floor. I've been on the floor for 4 days, Zeke said. What I saw was you showing up late, skipping prep, insulting customers, and letting one person do 3 jobs. Kyle stepped in. We can make adjustments. I'll retrain the team. I'll handle it. You won't be handling anything, Zeke said. You're both done. Trent's face twisted. You can't just fire us in front of... You're lucky I don't call legal for the ADA violation alone, Zeke said. Grab your things. You're no longer employed here. Trent looked to Kyle, who looked away. Within 5 minutes, both men were gone. No speeches, no farewells. Just silence and the sound of the door swinging shut behind them. Zeke turned to Gina, who was still frozen behind the bar. You all right? He asked. She nodded slowly. Did that just happen? Yeah, Zeke said. It did. She looked down. What now? Now we rebuild, together. Sunday morning was quiet, but not peaceful. The cafe opened an hour later than usual, not because of any technical issue, but because Zeke made the call. He'd spent the night on the phone first with HR, then with regional operations. By the time the sun rose, Kyle and Trent's terminations were official and documented. Their access was revoked, and messages had been sent to the broader district team, but none of that changed the fact that the downtown cafe was short 2 positions, manager and shift lead. Zeke arrived at 6:30 with a clipboard tucked under his arm and a plain black apron. He didn't wear anything to stand out. He didn't need to. Word had already started to spread. Gina met him at the front, unlocking the door with a fresh set of keys that corporate had overnighted. Her expression was unreadable, but she held the door open without a word. Thanks for coming in early, Zeke said. I didn't think you'd be back. I didn't think I'd have to be, but here we are. They turned on the lights together. The cafe buzzed to life slowly, like it was still trying to remember what it was supposed to feel like. Zeke handed Gina the clipboard. On it was a revised schedule, lean but balanced. He'd shifted in 2 baristas from nearby stores for the next 3 days. One was due in within the hour, the other picked up a late shift. I kept you on mornings, Zeke said, but I want you off the floor by 2, no doubles. She looked at the page quietly, then asked, Who's covering closing? I am. When the first customer walked in at 7:15, the cafe was clean, organized, and calm. Zeke worked the register while Gina handled bar. The third barista, a sharp-eyed young man named Mateo from the East Side branch, showed up exactly on time. He'd heard about what happened. Everyone had. By midday, the store was running smoother than it had in weeks. Still slow in places, still stretched thin, but stable. At 2, Zeke turned to Gina. Go home. She hesitated. There's a line. I see it. It'll still be here tomorrow. You won't be if I let this keep happening. She unpinned her apron, hung it up, and left without protest. After the rush, Zeke stepped outside for a minute of air. The street was quieter now. Across the road, a man with a guitar played near the bus stop. A woman dropped a few coins in his case. When Zeke returned inside, Mateo was restocking the cold brew tap. He worked quickly, efficiently, and didn't need hand-holding. Zeke joined him behind the counter. You ever think about moving up? Zeke asked. Mateo didn't look up. I've thought about moving out. Why? I like the work, not the layers above me. What if that layer changed? Mateo finally met his eyes. Then I'd listen. Zeke nodded. We'll talk again tomorrow. At 5, Gina returned. She wasn't in uniform. She just stood near the counter, waiting until the customers cleared. I thought I told you to go home, Zeke said. You did. Then why are you back? I wasn't sure if you meant it. I did. She paused. They never did. Say something and mean it. Zeke leaned against the counter. I'm not here to make promises. I'm here to fix what I let break. You didn't break it, she said. I stepped away long enough for it to fall apart. That's the same thing? She looked toward the back hallway. So, what happens now? I'm promoting you. Her eyes widened. To what? Acting shift lead, starting tomorrow, with a raise. I don't want to be in charge of a mess. You won't be alone. We're bringing in a new manager, someone from outside the chain, clean slate. I don't know if I'm ready. You already are. You've been holding this place together without the title. She didn't answer right away. Then finally, she nodded once. That's all I ask, Zeke said. The next morning, the new manager arrived. Her name was Naya, and she came from a non-profit cafe that had closed during the pandemic. She had experience, patience, and a direct way of talking that Zeke liked immediately. He stayed one more day, long enough to walk her through the systems, the quirks, the people. By the end of her shift, she already had ideas for restructuring the schedule, adjusting the prep lists, and building a new training process. Zeke stepped aside completely by Wednesday. He didn't say goodbye with a speech or gather the team for a group photo. He just clocked out like everyone else and left through the front door. On Thursday, he returned to his main office for the first time in over a month. He sat at the desk, looked out the window, and opened a folder labeled Store Health Reports. Then he picked up the phone. "Start scheduling unannounced visits," he told his assistant. "I want to see every location by the end of the quarter. Should I notify the managers ahead of time? No, if they're doing it right, they won't need a heads up." He hung up and opened the next report. 2 weeks later, Dolores, the woman with the trembling hands and the exact change, walked into the downtown cafe again. The cashier, now a new hire named Asha, greeted her with a smile. "Good morning. What can I get started for you?" "Just a medium drip," Dolores said, voice steady. "Coming right up." As the coffee brewed, Nia stepped out from the back and walked over. "It's good to see you again," she said softly. Dolores smiled. "It's good to be back." The coffee was hot. The price was correct. The receipt was folded neatly into her hand. And the seat by the window was open clean, quiet, and waiting. Zeke never stopped by again in disguise. He didn't need to. The people doing the real work were finally being seen.